two fundamental questions, open questions in science today. There are about 120 of them. But the first one is, what is the universe made of? Okay, and the answer, it's an open question in science, not to Rupert, okay? Because, as you heard him, it's made of nothing. He just summarized it, okay? But in science, that's a big dilemma because of the questions Christian raised. 75% is a mysterious force, which probably we shouldn't call energy anyway, but it's referred to as dark energy, which is ripping space apart faster than the speed of light. So even now, as we speak, the space between galaxies is accelerating faster than the speed of light. And the cosmic horizon, as science describes it, is 47 billion light years away from where we are, which means beyond that, what is it expanding into? Because even space is expanding. It's a big dilemma. What is this energy or anti-gravity or what a force or whatever you want to call it? So that leaves about 30% of the universe, which is not this entity. And of that, 26% is dark matter. And it's also invisible because it's not made of atoms. It doesn't reflect light, absorb light, emit light. The only reason it's called dark matter is that it behaves like matter. It bends space-time in the same way as regular matter and is responsible for most of the gravity that holds a galaxy together. So our galaxy and all the other galaxies are held together by this invisible, non-atomic whatever it is, which leaves 4% of the universe, which is atomic. Of that, 99.99999% is invisible interstellar dust, mostly hydrogen and helium, in fact, all hydrogen and helium, that hasn't yet coalesced to form galaxies or stars. So the visible universe, with all the galaxies, all the stars, all the planets, and now we're told trillions of them, is 0.01% of what's out there. Okay? 0.01%. And that, of course, makes your body too. Your carbon in your body, the hydrogen, the oxygen, was manufactured in the crucible of stars. As I look upon you, I see you as stardust beings who are wanting to know what's going on. Okay. That's 0.01% of the universe. But that atomic visible universe, as you know, if you were in previous sessions, is made up of atoms, which are also particles. And particles have this schizophrenic nature that when they're being observed or when they're interacting with other particles, they remain particles, but if you're not looking or if they're not in relationship with other particles, then they disappear into waves, and those waves, unlike particles, have no units of mass and energy. They're just possibilities. And when you ask scientists, where are those possibilities, they say some mathematical space. Where is that? It's a mathematical space. Where is that? Shut up and calculate. So it's true. The universe is made out of invisible nothingness. It's absolutely true. And of course, you know, we've heard that before in Buddhism and other traditions, and the Sufi mystics, Rumi, who says, we come spinning out of nothingness, scattering stars like dust. Look at these worlds, spinning out of nothingness. This is you. It's been said before, and of course one of the popular books right now is written by an atheist, Lawrence Krauss, who says the book is called The Universe from Nothing. And it's a very popular book. It's been on the New York Times, and it's actually a nihilistic view of the universe. So question number one, what's the universe made of? We don't know, in science. Okay, the second question in science is, what's the biological basis of consciousness? And as you know, it's called the hard problem, okay, which says the very question implies that consciousness is a product of biology. Okay, the question. So why it's called the hard problem is when I look at this, what's going to my eyes is a colorless photon. It has no dimensions. It has no color. It doesn't weigh anything. It goes to my eyes. It goes to my retina. And then it goes to my brain where there's electrochemistry. And I suddenly see these flowers. I see a three-dimensional universe. And it seems to be evolving in time. So how do photons going inside my brain create this experience that we're all having right now? That's the essence of the hard problem. We do not have an explanation for perceptual experience. And I'm giving you, sight, but we don't have an experience of any explanation for any experience of any of the five senses. We don't have an explanation. We also don't have an explanation for mental experience, thoughts, feelings, emotions, desires, memories. Where are they? And where is the person who's having the experience? So, because I have a biological background and I work with neuroscientists and we're doing some extraordinary work right now, which I'll show you with a lot of colleagues, I kind of like to ask my scientist colleagues where experience is happening and who's having the experience. Okay, so what's the most common word we use in our language, any language? I. So where is the I that is the center of all experience? Where is the I there that is having the experience of this body-mind that is called Deepak and this screen and this room? When I ask my neuroscientist friends, depending on their bias, they point to their eyes. And I remind them that, your eyes are receiving photons. Your eyes are 9 centimeters apart. By the time light gets into your retina, it is upside down because of the lens. Your retina is curved. You should be seeing two of me about this size, 9 centimeters apart, upside down and curved. Yes, something is happening in your eyes, but the experience of seeing me is not happening in your eyes. So when I point this out, they say, it's happening in my brain. They point here. So I say, how do I fit inside your brain? Okay, your brain is 9 centimeters by 10 centimeters by 14 centimeters. How does this room fit inside your brain? How does the Milky Way galaxy that you see fit inside your brain? I know something's happening in your brain, but the eye of experience is not in your brain. So some of them at this point will say, they'll point to me, and they'll say, I'm having the experience of you there, where I'm standing, or I'm having the experience of the stars there. But then I point to them, you are here, how can you have the experience of something there? You see, this becomes very absurd after a while. The I, that is the center of all experience, cannot be found. Not in the brain, not in the body, nowhere in the universe. So it leads to possibly two conclusions. I doesn't exist, it's a hallucination. But then that leads to a problem, nor does the universe, because if there's no I to experience the universe, then the universe is a hallucination too. So how do we solve this dilemma? And I think you heard it from Rupert. The I of experience is dimensionless. It has no location in space-time. It is unimaginable. It is inconceivable, because being dimensionless, you can't imagine anything that is without dimensions, right? So as Rupert said, infinity is not some vastness of space. Eternity is not some eternal time. Infinity is inconceivable, unimaginable, dimensionless, but without which we would not have this experience. Okay, so in the next few minutes, I'm going to track the history of scientific thought to lead you to the conclusion that you already heard from Rupert. But I'm going to do it very quickly.
Deepak?
Yeah?
Your slides are on your computer? This is the one about you.
No, the human universe.
Okay, it's up now.
Okay. So I'll quickly go through the history of thought. When we look at the universe, the way people have thought about it. So I'm going to go back a little bit. This is, of course, the universe of the Bible, right? God created the universe and basically is the source and origin of life and mind. This is where we might end up, but with a slightly different interpretation of this universe. Then you see the classical universe, which is obviously created and ruled by fixed laws of nature known through human reason and logic. And then, you know, this is not just Newton, but all these wonderful philosopher scientists that were part of this understanding of classic universe, laws of motion, universal gravitation, Kepler's laws of planetary motion, which Newton elaborated upon, the laws of thermodynamics, which came much later, and so on. And this universe then, of course, gave way to the relativistic universe of Einstein, who had two theories: the special theory of relativity, where mass and energy equivalence was found. Energy is equal to mc squared. There's a fixed limit of the speed of light, and the speed of light is a constant for all frames of reference. And then the general theory of relativity, which basically gave us the theory of gravity as the bending of space-time and gravitational time delay. And that then was, in a way, a universe much more dynamic than all the previous universes. And then, of course, we had the quantum universe, where Einstein was also a participant, although reluctantly. And these were the early pioneers of quantum physics, and our own Henry Stapp was part of that tribe. So here, the quantum universe deals with the behavior of electrons, photons, elementary particles, and these then, of course, have this wave-particle duality. The movement of atoms is random, and there's all these things that you've been hearing about from, you know, Stuart Hameroff, superposition, observation causes collapse, although he doesn't subscribe to that, OR, orchestrated reduction, and non-locality are some of the features of the quantum mechanical universe. Now, if you go to Wikipedia, you'll see that there are at least 15 to 20 interpretations of quantum mechanics. So interpretations are sets of statements which attempt to explain quantum mechanics beyond the recipes it gives for calculations. And this is what people discuss. So this is Wikipedia page on the interpretation of quantum mechanics. Okay? I'm not going to spend time going over this, but it should give you some clue that nobody knows what's going on. Okay? All we know is the math works. What does it mean? No one knows. Okay, so then earlier this morning we heard Henry Stapp talk about the Copenhagen interpretation, which says that until a measurement is made, there's no particle. There are only possibilities. And until recently, this has been the most popular interpretation. But now there are all these other guessing games that have come up. Superstrings and many worlds and multiverse and M theory and eternal inflation, which, by the way, is the most popular right now, described by Andre Linde. Basically, it's a very difficult mathematical concept, but he gives the metaphor that imagine there is a cosmic casino. And in that casino, there are an infinity of slot machines. And they're throwing up coins every moment of time, all infinity of them. And if the coin comes back heads up, it doubles in size. If it comes back tails, then it halves in size. And if you have a situation where there's an infinity of tails, almost, then it keeps halving in size till it gets to Planck scale, and then it escapes through a hole in the cosmic casino and spins off into a universe. Talk about being bizarre, okay? And of course, he has the mathematics for it, and this is the most popular theory, that because there's an infinity of such events in an infinite casino, then we happen to have hit the jackpot. But not only we, there might be an infinity of universes, 10 to the power of 500, because in an infinite casino, there's an infinite chance of these happenings. So I'm not going to waste time in this. I think what we call science or cosmology has become a mathematical guessing game with no possible proof, no theoretical possible proof. So what it has led to is an uncertain universe, where the fabric of nature, through the methodologies through which we do science, has come to a dead end. And that includes all these other conundrums, the nature of dark matter, energy, and the fact that the visible universe is only 0.01% of what exists out there. And so other people, including Menas Kafatos and Amit Goswami, have started to talk about the conscious universe, that random events are not enough to explain the laws of nature, which are very fine-tuned, often referred to as the weak and strong anthropic principle, and the fact that, based on the undeniable fact that we can only know these laws through consciousness, the only universe you and I can talk legitimately about is the human universe, which is rooted in consciousness, because we are viewing not the real universe based on limitations on the brain, but the universe that we experience and know in consciousness as the modified modulations of consciousness or the excited states of consciousness. So when Rupert came and spoke, I think he defined consciousness as that in which experience occurs, in that in which experience is known, and that which makes for the experience of the material world, that the material world is in fact made out of consciousness. The universe is made out of consciousness, is experienced in consciousness, and is known in consciousness. So this would be the new formula then. U is equal to C, right? The universe is consciousness. And of course, this goes back to the Vedanta, which says, Aham Brahmasmi, I am the universe. So before you go, after you go past the secret passages and the dark alleys and the ghost-filled attics of your conditioned separate mind, you find that you are the universe. Aham Brahmasmi. In fact, in Sanskrit, the word for consciousness is Brahman, and the word for universe is Brahmand. The universe as the activity of consciousness within consciousness, experienced and known by consciousness. Rupert said something very important. The universe is not a thing, it's an activity. Okay, so what's it and this is the translation of the Sanskrit word tattvamasi. That thou art. That is who you are. You are the universe. Okay, so you could be an atheist until you realize that you are God in drag. Okay, that tattvamasi means that is who you are, that is who I am, that is what all this is. Okay? Okay, there is only consciousness, there is only God. And based on this, I have worked with Menas and other people to create what I hope will be the future foundation for the science of consciousness. And this is not me alone, by the way. I mean, Bernardo Kastrup has been saying this here. Menas has been saying it. You heard him carefully. Our mathematician friends, Frankel is saying this, Edward, and of course Rupert is saying it so eloquently and so articulately, and also giving us an experience for this. That science, as based on a materialistic or physicalist ontology, is dead, because it's undermined by the very notion which is in quantum mechanics, that the old world of an external physical universe does not exist. That what exists are qualities of consciousness or qualities of experience within consciousness. So since I have 5 minutes, I'm not going to go through all these principles. It's okay. I'm not going to go through all these principles. These principles, 40 principles of qualia science, are going to be available on a website that Maurizio will put them on. You can put on the whole PowerPoint. Okay, but just understanding qualia science means understanding the principles through which qualities of consciousness. So what is quality of consciousness? Hardness, shape, color, sound, taste, smell. These are qualities of consciousness within consciousness. That's all we experience. And Rupert said it very elegantly, that matter is an abstract idea that we come up with in consciousness to explain experiences of consciousness within consciousness, generated by consciousness, modulated by consciousness. Once we understand how this works, actually we can explain every so-called physical phenomenon that occurs in the universe. So I'm going to leave you with that, but I want to take 3 minutes I'm aware now of the time. I want to shut these slides off, and I'm going to tell you a little bit of the work we're doing to substantiate this. Okay, so can I put this one on? I'll finish in 3 minutes, Maurizio. It's funny how, we run out of time even though it doesn't exist. And then it creates all kinds of biological experiences. So this is a slide from another talk, but what I want to show you is that in the last 3 years, we've been looking at what happens to human biology when we understand the biology as an activity in consciousness. So this is what happens every day, right? We experience the world as sound, touch, sight, taste, smell, breathing, nutrition, metabolism. These are words we give to experiences in consciousness. So with this understanding that your body is a process, an activity, not a structure, and what's it a process of? Of sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts. And then that you can experience as energy and information. And then you can look at gene activity when it's influenced by thoughts, emotions, relationships, social interactions, and environment, which is the new science of epigenetics. And that you can actually rewire your brain through experience and this is something that I learned when I was writing the book with Rudy, that only 5% of disease-related gene mutations are fully penetrant, which means they're unstoppable with our current state of knowledge. The rest are influenced by consciousness, including your relationship with time, and awareness is the key to it. And our genes and epigenome and microbiome are actually correlates of consciousness, just like the neural correlates of consciousness. Your body is a metaphor for experiences in consciousness. So is the universe. So is the mind. Okay? And without going into details, this is one of the studies we've just completed with these collaborators at what can only be called some of the premier institutions in the country and probably in the world. 5 days on a meditation retreat, the enzyme telomerase went up by 40%. This work was done by Elizabeth Blackburn, who's a Nobel laureate at UCSF, and then we looked at the entire activity of genes. If you remember what Rudy said, Rupert said, there's no such thing as a thing. There are no things. There are only activities. Okay? So there are no nouns in the universe. There's only verbs. And the verb is the activity of consciousness within itself. We can elaborate on this, but when we looked at the activity during a 5-day retreat of meditation where people were in self-reflection, self-awareness, body awareness, breath awareness, awareness of mental space, recognizing that the awareness of a thought is not a thought, it's the awareness that gives rise to the thought, is the awareness where the thought goes back, and the activity is in time, but the awareness is not in time and not in space either. We were able to show that all the genes, which are the signatures of the activities in awareness that cause healing, went up. And some of them, their activity went up 17-fold, which was remarkable. And then we looked at all the genes that cause inflammation and disease, including Alzheimer's, heart disease, many types of cancer, and it went down. So the person who described this, by the way, who created the signature, he said, I now have a genetic signature for people who practice self-awareness in the way I described it. Okay? So somebody in the audience, and I'm not embarrassed to tell you this story, said, Dr. Shah, he's the #1 guy in RNA sequencing and what is called transcriptome analysis, which measures the activity of genes. I said, do you meditate? He said, no. Do you plan to meditate? He said, no. But you just showed us this data. This is a slide that shows you can change your gene activity. He said, yes, I'm now going to figure out how to make a drug out of this. Okay. So we also looked at brain waves, heart waves. We have a lot of data. In fact, we have what are called terabytes of data. And now we are doing another study called Self-Directed Biological Transformation Initiative. And we've added some more institutions to our investigators, including Duke University. And we're looking at biological transformation as a result of things like massage, meditation, yoga, food that is not poisoned by all the stuff that goes into food manufacturing, and conscious communication. And we are looking at literally hundreds of thousands of biological markers, not just gene activity, not just RNA transcription or sequencing. We're looking at inflammatory markers. We're looking at what is called metabolomics, lipidomics, everything that happens in your body, and how consciousness modulates those signatures of its own activity. These are some of the things we're studying with these institutions, and one of the papers is now in publication. These are the institutions involved. We're looking at the microbiome, because we have a cell biologist in our center, and she studies the microbiome, which is 3.3 million genes that are bacterial in your body to 23,000 genes that are human. So I said, what's going on, Christine? And she said, we are the awakening of bacterial consciousness. And then then she quoted Rumi. She said, you know, Rumi has, this was said earlier this morning, I think, that God or consciousness sleeps in minerals, it starts to dream in plants and bacteria, it wakes up in animals, and in humans it says, who am I? And what's going on? But, you know, we have 150 times more bacterial genes in our body than human genes. So we're studying all of that. We're studying the effects of herbs on genomics, and this is a very exciting time. This is a study that just got published. People kept a gratitude journal, and all their they weren't meditating, nothing. At the end of the day, they would write down 10 things they were grateful for. And their inflammatory markers went down. A disease called leaky gut was cured, and leaky gut is now implicated in diabetes, heart disease, etc. And this is now we are mapping out the body with yoga as well. And this is our definition of supergenes. It's not your genome alone, but all the bacteria that are your ancestors and all the other life forms, and the sheath of proteins outside, and we have many more studies planned, but bottom line is that as leaders of the future, we need to start looking at the new paradigm, which is saying the universe is in consciousness. And consciousness is where experience happens. Consciousness is what gives rise to all this. You, me, and this world. You say, where is it? The answer is, it's nowhere in particular. It's everywhere in general. It's the real you. And this body-mind and that body-mind and this whole thing is arising and subsiding in every moment of now. T is equal to 0. And once we start listening to this, it opens a new window for us leading the future of a new science, which will be based on consciousness. Sorry to go on for so long. Thank you.